Lustpodden riktar sig till alla som är intresserade av lust och relationer i terapi. Podden leds av religionshistorikern och teologen Leif Karlsson och Hanna Möllås som är legitimerad barnmorska, legitimerad psykoterapeut och sexolog med flera auktorisationer i sexologi. Dagens lustpodd kommer att handla om chemsex, eller som det tidigare kallats sex och droger. Och för detta har jag med mig en väldigt god vän och viktig person som jag pratar väldigt ofta med. Han heter Tonny Bønløkke Hertz och är från Danmark. Och eftersom jag inte är så bra på danska så gör vi så att det här samtalet är på engelska. Is that okay, Tonny?
That's totally fine with me, yes.
And thank you for coming here. It's so good to see you.
And thank you for inviting me. Yes. I've been looking forward to it.
Oh, that's so nice. We're in Malmö right now, and we've already had a glass of champagne. So let's see.
Just to take the top of the nerves.
Yes, that's good. Yes. So I started this session with talking about that you're a very good friend of mine, and that we used to talk a lot and text a lot. Yes. And it's all about the big issues of NACS.
Yes.
Because you're the president of NACS.
I am indeed.
Yes. Would you like to tell us about NACS just?
Well, NACS it's a joint venture. Mm-hmm. It's an organization with members from Iceland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, and Estonia.
Yes.
We swap. Every year we have a conference, NACS conference. Mm-hmm. This year is in Norway, if everything goes as planned.
Yeah.
And then we have, of course, the most important part, the authorization committee, which you are the chair of.
Yes.
Because we have this authorization system together.
Yeah.
So each sexual education in a different country can apply for a NACS authorization, which I think is putting us together. Yeah. I think it's really, really important work. Yeah. And for many people, it is important that they can prove something. I mean, anybody today can call themselves a sexologist or therapist or whatever. We kind of have this system to try to make a certain level of education. Yeah. And of course, we have different systems, so it's not always we can just compare. But we do our best to do, on a certain level, which I am proud of that we are doing. Yes. And we should continue that.
Yes, we should. And it's so good to have you as boss.
Thank you. And I'm so confident with having you as a chair for the authorization committee.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And it's very nice to see you because I also know that you are one of the experts in Denmark and also I think in the world about this topic. So it's very nice to have you here. But first, I would like to ask you the question that I used to ask all my guests. Who is Tonny?
Yes, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, I could start with disclaim that I'm becoming 56 years old. I am gray-haired with some black stripes in it. I'm gay. I'm married with my husband. We have been together for 25 years. We have been married for 14 years. I work in my daily work as a clinic sexological counseling. And I've been working, the workplace I'm at now is actually AIDS-Fondet / Checkpoint, Copenhagen. And I have had the position as a counselor there for 19 years, almost 20.
Oh, that's so cool.
So in the old days, I was working mostly with men who have sex with men that were becoming HIV positive, their family or their relatives or their partners. And then 10 years ago, maybe a bit more, I started to see, a change in the people that I had in my clients. We call them in Danish rådsøgende, as people who are seeking advice. And I start to have these gay men, and I start to see a change of the sexual behavior they had, where it becomes more, the goal, which means the load, then instead of good sex, it was more the amount of partners than one good partner. So there's something here. Is that what we call sexual addiction? Is that hypersexuality? And I was like, I talked with my boss about it, and he was just like, oh, that's just, that's an American thing. They are so, shy or bonert, we can say in Danish, And it's like, but nah, I think it's different because I see the change of, it's more like an obsessive way of having sex. And it was not even for pleasure. It was more because they just needed it.
Yeah.
And I was like wondering a bit about that. And then I saw, okay. And a lot of those guys are actually taking drugs to combine that, which makes sense. If you like sex, if you like it a lot, and you need a lot, why not top it with some drugs that can keep you awake for a weekend? Yeah. Then you can have even more sex. You can have even more partners. It's like, okay. And that was before we even knew the word chemsex. Yeah. So we call it sex on drugs. And I started to dig more into it. I was like, okay, this is a pattern. And then I was just one day also, I was sitting at a party and talked with a guy. And I talked about this, because it was on my mind and I'm a part of the community. So I'm like very curious about it. And he talked about that. And he said, if you ever need a case that have been sexual addictive, you can talk with me, because he was so addicted to sex, but he didn't do drugs at that time, that his boyfriend came with Post-it, the Post-it notes, and put it as his computer and just writing, it says, I'm sitting in the living room if you want to join me, So he was really obsessive with that. I was like, okay, so it's not me seeing ghosts.
No.
Then on the other hand, I have been partying myself. I've been, I'm not that young, but I have been doing drugs for like, let's say, roughly 20 years. A lot. So we were partying, me and my husband were partying every weekend. And we're looking forward, to the next party. Yeah. But we have always at that time seen it in a social context. Yeah. Like I would never got up at that time, on a Monday morning to do drugs. No. We would never do drugs at home alone, just me and him.
It was a party thing.
Yes. We did it to go out to party, followed by sex afterwards, because you do get horny and all those kind of things. And I was like, but the things when I would go back to my work was like, I saw a change in that. People went to sex. Yeah. They didn't pop an ecstasy to go out party first. And then we started a group, because then my idea was, what if we could imagine, because then crystal meth and GHB came to the market. And then I was like, what if we could catch people before they started to do that? Yeah. What if we could
catch... it's a heavier drug.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So what could happen? Imagine if we could catch people doing just MDMA or ecstasy. Could we actually catch them and keep them there? Yeah. Because the intention for AIDS-Fondet is not that people to have to stop to doing drugs. We are working harm reduction, so we just want, can people do it more safely? Could they protect themselves? Could they take care of themselves when they're doing it?
Oh, I'm sorry for stopping you, but I just love this, because this is not always the way that we talk about it in Sweden. But I know this is a big difference between Denmark and Sweden, although we are so close to each other.
That's true.
You are so much better than us on harm reduction and talking about how can we do this as good as possible.
Yeah.
So sorry for interrupting you.
It's okay. I will go back to that. Maybe I should do that right now. Because actually at one conference, we have some conferences with Sweden, Norway, Finland, and Denmark every year. It changed. And I remember I did talk about chemsex. Yeah. And at that time, it was impossible for the Norwegian and Swedish people to talk about it, because it was like, if you talked about it, you're legalizing it.
Yes.
And we don't judge that part. So if you come to me and say, I want to reduce, then we're working with reducing. If you come to say, I can see my sex life have changed, we talk about your sex life. How can I help you back to the sex that you actually really want? Yeah. But I want to go back to them. Because then we had a group, and I was like, my thought was, if we could catch them there to just do with the MDMA, let's keep them there, let's talk to them about avoiding the big hard things. And we did this group, and I was so naive. I had no idea. These young guys in, the oldest at that time was 41. And they had all done crystal meth or methamphetamine. We say, dear child, have many names. So it's like, just to be clear, crystal meth, methamphetamine, Tina, ice, tea, crystal, or meth. It's the same. So maybe I will use different words for it. I was like, wow, they have all done that. So my idea was not, I was like, okay, I was really surprised.
Yeah.
And then we talked about it with them, because we didn't use the frame chemsex, we used sex on drugs. And we actually still do that. And that's the reason comes now, because they said, okay, so when you talk chemsex, it's because I've done 3 kind of drugs, because David Stewart from London have defined chemsex. You are a man who have sex with men, who do crystal meth, methadone, or GHB, or in a combination.
Okay.
So all other drugs are not a part of chemsex.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we were like, and then people said, so okay, I go to a party, I've been taking 2 grams of cocaine, I'm doing 10 ecstasy, I'm just having sex and drugs. Then this guy come in to the room, he light a pipe of crystal meth, I take 1 sip of the meth, and then I'm suddenly having chemsex. It doesn't make sense in real life.
No.
It maybe makes sense for us as a professional to
define.
and actually to differ between, because there's a huge difference between the drugs. But for the people doing it, it doesn't make sense. No. There are other names they would use: party and drugs, P&P, you know, HH, high and horny, you know, all these different kind of names for it. But when it comes to it, it's sex on drugs. What we are more aware of the use of crystal meth and GHB and methadone, because they are so much more, in Danish, potent. It's heavy drugs. It's like heroin.
Yeah,
actually.
I mean, we would say that in Sweden. De är potenta, de här drogerna.
Yeah.
Att bli väldigt starka i kroppen.
Yeah. And you're very easy to get addicted, and you're very easy to get psychotic, and all those kind of things. So we are more aware of those 3 drugs. But in daily basis, we actually talk more about doing drugs. Yeah. But we also see a race of what kind of... Because when I was partying, when I was younger, I mean, we all did ecstasy. It was so easy. And, you know, when you went to the party, you could see the people that are dancing, you know, the same way as you were, like 8 hours and sweating like hell, drinking water. Probably they were doing drugs. Yeah. But there have also been a change in the behavior of that. Yeah.
That's so interesting. And how did people react when you wanted to start working with this?
All the people that are funding us, they said, no, there's no issue. So they didn't want to fund us. It's actually first, like, 3 years ago, we started to get funding for it. Very little funding, and only for the local authorities in Copenhagen. So we are actually only getting money for do this work in Copenhagen area. But we have opened up to say also the people in Jutland, Aarhus, Aalborg, whatever, more to prove that there is an issue, because we don't get funding for it. So we actually do that for the free money we have, but and that's not a lot. And there's still, like, we have a group from politicians and different people, important people that are following the project, where we have meetings like every 3rd month to tell about the project, how is it going. And they now start in the Minister of Social Welfare and Health Minister, they actually start to say now that we need to find more money, because this is a growing issue. Yeah.
So what is the typical client? You said gay men, or men who have sex with men. Would you like to tell us more about them? Yeah.
And when I use the frame men who have sex with men, it's just because some people don't define themselves as gay people. No. So we call it TMSM, trans people and men who have sex with men. Yeah. That's the group we get money for. We have few others. We start to see, because we have just got a small funding for straight people below 29 years. Funny, but that's what we do. Yeah. Because we also do testing, chlamydia, gonorrhea, all these. And we can also take some of them in if they have issues with drugs. But we see very few, but they're playing a little with cocaine. No, but the gay man is actually our target group, but we just call it men who have sex with men. And it's also the biggest group they have all in the house anyway. What can I tell about the group? It have also changed, because in the beginning when we start to work with this, the median age was around 45 to 50, because at that time, like just 6 years ago, a gram of crystal meth costed 2,000 Danish kroner. So it was a rather expensive drugs. Yeah. And then now it's actually the price is around like the same price as cocaine, but you get so much more power from 1 gram of methamphetamine than you did from cocaine. So why take the expensive cocaine when you can take the other ones? And another change have been so it's people that have money. The people that was in jobs, they have nice apartments, they had done a career and they had the money for doing these kind of drugs. And the young people with the good, nice butts or whatever, nice body, nice smiles, are invited for these parties for the old rich gay people. So it have started to change. So we start to see people get younger and younger. But at the same time, the prices have also gone down. So now it's like a gram costs around 600, 700 krona. It's the same price as cocaine. So the clients have also changed. They are becoming younger. A lot of the people actually in my age groups who are still doing it, they don't seek counseling actually. They're kind of like, I don't have an issue. And we can also see that when we do surveys that they are not a part of the surveys anymore. Because they are like, because a lot of people actually get psychotic of it. But then when you know it and you have done it for a long time, you get better and better in maybe tackling it. So a lot of the really old users, they would take, when the party ends Sunday or Monday morning, they would take antipsychotic medication so they don't get psychotic. And then some people would add up with some ADHD medication because then they can concentrate. So they do all these kind of things and know what to do. But to be honest, a lot of the friends I was partying with back then, they are addicted. And they don't stop with popping an ecstasy. They are injecting crystal meth. So that's also a new twist of the drug because it's nothing new that gay people are doing drugs. We have done drugs since, the day we were born, kind of. And in the 70s, we did a lot of LSD, and why is it gay men doing this?
Why? What is your answer to that question?
I think it's a component of more things. It started, not of course, but it started typically in the US. And when you came out as a gay person or a trans person or whatever, LGBT plus person, the family often rejected you. So they seek together in San Francisco, which was the big gay capital, to find a new family. So the family become, the gay friends.
The gay community,
And since we don't have kids, we don't have any responsibility. We can just live the life for full. So it doesn't matter if we party Monday, Tuesday, because we don't have, maybe we have a job to get back on job, but we don't have any responsibility according to children, for instance. But I don't think it's the whole story. I also think a lot of it's also about internalized homophobia. Because if you grow up and you move to San Francisco, if it's the United States, because your family don't like you, they actually pushed you away, you are confirmed that it's not okay to be gay. So if you put that in a Danish context or in a European context, it's still like that. A lot of gay men or bisexual men or LGBT plus person people, they are suffering a lot from internalized phobia, whether it's trans or lesbian phobia or whatever. And we cannot talk about this issue in the room without talking about that. That is really, and when people just realize how much they have actually put an effort, and you can see that with a lot of gay men, they have put an effort in having the right job. They have the big apartments, they have the nice car, because it's a status symbol to show the world, maybe I'm queer, maybe I'm gay, but look at my home.
But I'm rich.
I'm rich, and I have done my job, I have my career, which becomes, a big thing. And then, because we're still suffering, then drugs can easily be an issue. That's, on the higher level, I think you cannot talk about this. And then still a lot of shame. You cannot talk about chemsex without talking about shame.
Of course.
Which is also a big part of it. There's still so much shame about being a gay person. And where it comes even more when you sit with the clients in your room, where I see the most it coming out is actually to bottom. So to be the receiving part in anal intercourse. That's so shameful for a lot of people. So they're like, okay, then I'm, the underneath, I'm the underdog, so many things.
I'm not worth anything.
And So therefore, it's becoming very easy to do drugs.
Yeah.
And for some people,
to just cope.
Yeah, to just cope with just the sexuality. And you also see it in another way, because we are very good. Now I'm doing question marks.
Yeah.
Not question marks.
No, like quote marks.
Yeah, quote marks, yeah. Because like we are very good, and we are actually bragging a bit about how good we are in just having casual sex.
Yeah. Like men who have sex with men.
Yeah, a lot. And and we have, we are bragging. You see, I can do it every time. I can just take a new every day. I'm not necessarily that it's a thing to brag about. I think it can be very good. And it can be a very good cope mechanism for many things. But I also think it's because we cannot stick with the one, because then it turns into love. And if we are too close, if we have to cuddle, it becomes very much aware that we are with another man.
Yeah.
If I just turn my back to you, I can just, go in my fantasy and like, wow, that was really hard. 10 minutes, you're out of the door. I had my ejaculation. Everything is fine. But when you are in the moment and you are laying there, a lot of gay men, intimacy is really big an issue. And I always try to do a test, but I'm asking people, how do you feel if another man touching you around your neck and chest, just up here, around the heart?
Yeah.
A lot of people actually don't like it.
But on the back would be fine.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah. So I think it's a component.
Too close to my feelings and my emotions.
Exactly. Yeah. Wow. Which is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, to come back to what you asked about, like internalized homophobia and shame, and just to be, present in the sexual moment.
Yeah.
The drugs is opening up for that. It's still a lot of sex, but you can also do a lot of sex that you want to do, because we maybe all have a kinky side.
Yeah.
And to be shameful of just having men have sex with another man, then it's even maybe more shameful to have more kinky sex, BDSM. So it's loosening up. And some of them also actually say that totally low, that it's painful to be the receiving part in anal intercourse. Yeah. So just doing a little drugs, take the pain.
It's a pain reduction and shame reduction. And, but also something that leaves you with a lot of pain and shame altogether.
Yeah, because the worst part is actually, because I have been partying myself. So I mean, and I loved it. I have a lot of good sex.
Yeah.
But when I'm talking with many people, they also say, because you can go home and you're maybe happy in the moment, but the next day or the days after, all your bad consciousness about, what did I do? Who was he or who were they? How many were there? Yeah. Because as these things are growing, we also, because if you and I started a Chemsex party, you and I would take a line of coke and we have good sex. Then, at 10 lines later, you think, Tonny's getting boring. You show me on Grindr or whatever app. Should we invite them or they or,
whoever,
And, for somehow it's also a part of it that is underlined that we don't use condom.
No.
So safe sex is a word in another country.
Yeah.
And then you and I, we know each other's status or whatever. We know we're on PrEP. And the next one's coming. What do we actually know? We don't know nothing, but we're so high at that moment. So we just
don't care.
And you invited them. I don't want to be rude to you. So if you can have sex with them, I can have sex with them. So we almost all that have been partying a lot knows that we sometimes more often as the long this go on, have sex with people that we actually don't like to have sex with.
Yeah.
So you're sitting on this with like Grindr or Tinder to reframe it to another straight. You're swiping, and you will start the evening with saying no, 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 no. To a sip of a pipe of crystal meth. Maybe. And the next morning you will see like the 10 guys you had over during that night, you would never have done when you're sober.
Yeah. What does that do with the people? I mean, how did that make them feel? Would you say?
Full of even more shame. I mean, you do all this to avoid this shame and to go into this and have more good sex.
Yeah.
And in the moment, you are so full of dopamine, serotonin, and all the good drugs. Yeah. Not the good drugs, but in the brain drugs. Yeah. So you're so happy and you're so pleased, and your brain is just, imagine you get so much dopamine intake, and the sex on top of it.
Yeah.
So in the moment, you're just like, but it's so self-harming actually. When we talk about the real issue, it's full of self-harming. And you wake up and you feel raped, you feel even more shame, and you, for some people it's even hard to just come in and to from the first session where we talk about the things until the 10th session where they actually tell what they're actually doing. And some of the things that they're doing is, I mean, to feel it, they need even more and more the rush to do things. So people can start very in the mild end, and I'm still doing
quote
again,
signs,
that they want to go and have sex in a cemetery. But that's, just, okay, we want to do it outside. But, they're twisting it because it's cemetery. But it can also be that they start to put things up behind. They are like toilet brushes, which can be very painful and can be very dangerous. But just to feel it and to get the rush, I can do this, So you have to take it to another level all the time. So some of them, most of the people that are ending out there, they are out of our reach, you can say. So it's not typical people but the people in between, but they are starting to have addictive behavior, but they're also doing that. And we see a lot of people that actually catching HIV in that in the session.
Yeah, I understand.
And for us sexuologists, it's the interesting part is actually, so when we talk about it, they actually, some people would say that they're re-traumatizing themselves. But they actually also want to go back. They want to go back to that session. No, not even to change it. No, because they actually liked it.
They want to do it again. Because of the rush.
And even know that they knew that this guy was changing their life for good. And it's so shameful to even say that out loud. I'm actually searching back. I wish that he was texting me again. I had a client. And we talked about it, and he still had the WhatsApp talk. He saved it. It was like 5 years ago he was getting HIV, but he still had the conversation afterwards where they talked about it. I was like, why don't you delete it? And I said, that's a good question. But sometimes I'm reading it when I'm jerking off.
Just being in the moment.
So this drug, when we talk crystal meth, is really also changing your way of thinking, your behavior. It's actually, in the worst case, and in many cases, actually making you psychotic. And that can be, on a scale for some people, just a little psychotic. But for some people, as I told you before when we planned this interview, that this guy I have, he's talking with Paris Hilton, and he's so, that's for him, it's real. They're emailing each other. And she wants to share her money with him. So I'm like,
it's so sad.
Yeah, it's very sad.
Där lämnar vi Tonny för denna gång, men samtalet fortsätter ju nästa vecka. Och då kommer han fokusera lite på vad terapeuter behöver veta. Han ger lite råd och tips om vad man kan tänka på i mötet med patienter som man tror finns i den här riskgruppen. Och jag kommer även fråga honom hur han tar hand om sig själv för att jobba med och möta mycket lidande och personer som står honom nära också. För precis som han kommer tala mer om så är det här en liten grupp i en liten grupp. Och därför så känner många varandra och han vet om väldigt många av dem som han möter i terapi. Så fortsätt gärna lyssna nästa vecka när Tonny är tillbaka och samtalet fortsätter. Men jag kommer även lägga ut lite länkar för dig som vill veta mer. Dels till David Stewart som Tonny tog upp, som har jobbat mycket med detta i London. Men sen finns det en grupp på RFSL här i Sverige, i Stockholm, som heter Sexperterna och som jobbar hårt för att hjälpa homo- och bi- och transpersoner som har sex med män för att minska sexuellt lidande och sjukdomar och att öka den sexuella hälsan. Men jag hoppas att ni fortsätter att lyssna på Tonny nästa vecka. Tack så mycket. Du har lyssnat till Lustpodden. För mer information och tips från programmet så hänvisar vi till lustpodden.se. Där kan du också kontakta oss om du vill vara med och berätta din berättelse om lust och relationer i terapi.
Signaturmelodin är skapad av Johan Nilsson och redaktör och producent och ansvarig för klippning är Julia Linde.